Gil Troy is a professor and a columnist who does commentaries for the Jerusalem Post, like this latest one, "The Israel We Know Still Lives," which is in reaction to a rather nasty column by the New York Times' Thomas Friedman. Gil, what did Friedman write about, and why did it so upset you?
We just had our fifth election in 2.5 years. Because Israelis love democracy so much, we vote again and again and again. So there's a bit of a stalemate. And all of a sudden, because Thomas Friedman doesn't like these election results, which were democratic and reflected the people's will, and were extremely close, 4,000 votes would have shifted, he says, the Israel we know is gone. And why are you condemning a country so quickly? Why are you so quick to define a country, first of all, by a stalemate election, and secondly, by its politicians? And of course, it sent everybody into a tizzy because everybody always feels that Israel's on probation. Israel is not on probation. Israel is not going away. And we all know a country and our love of country is not defined by our politicians. We love our country. And we sometimes love our politicians, but we have to love our country despite our politicians quite frequently, and we love the country always.
What did you do about it? Like, what did you write about? I know that's some of what you wrote about, but, you know, what was kind of like your message to American Jews reading the Jerusalem Post and others around the world?
As a historian, I always say my favorite text is context. And so I said, first of all, you have to understand, part of the problem is the Israel you don't report is still there. And the Israel you don't report includes over 25 people who have been killed in terrorist attacks in 2022 alone. There have been 2,200 different attempts. And they're heartbreaking stories of young women, of young men, of older women, innocent people just living their lives being targeted by evil people who want to destroy peace. So first, you have to understand that part of the reason why some right-wingers, who Thomas Friedman hates, were elected was because Israelis were scared. And Israelis were worried. And I also said, wait a minute, they're talking about what is our relationship between the Jews and the Arabs here in Israel. Well, you can look at 4 different snapshots. You can look at 2, I said, which are really good and show tremendous progress, and 2 which show tension because life is complex. So the 2 things I wanted to say were, 1, it's more complicated, and 2, understand that the country isn't defined in this way by this one snap election.
Mm-hmm. Now, you wrote about that guys like Friedman and many American Jews know the names of the new far-right leaders here, like Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, and yet there's names they don't know, and you listed 7. Why did you write about those 7 people?
So there are now 2 very charismatic, popular politicians on the right, Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, who have been pushing very, very aggressively against the previous government and against Israeli Arab terrorists. And they're very careful to say not against Israeli Arabs, but against terrorists. And their politics is not to my taste, and I was very clear about that in the column. But nevertheless, I understand why some people voted for them out of fear. And I felt that it was really shocking that American Jews, who tend to say they know everything that's going on, know the names Smotrich, know the names Ben-Gvir, but they don't know the names of Noah Lazar, an 18-year-old woman who was stabbed to death just 20 minutes from here in Jerusalem. They don't know the story of Noam Raz, a 47-year-old father of 6, whose father, who heard 2 days after this election that one of his son's killers had been caught, and then the father died. So you also see that terrorism doesn't just target the individual, it targets the family, and it targets the country. And once you understand that, you don't have to judge so much, and you can say, okay, life is complex, and maybe this election didn't work out as I wanted to, but Israel still lives, Israel's values still are important, and we still love the country because we're still a part of this broader democracy, this part of the club of democracies, which includes the United States, which includes Canada, which includes Great Britain, which includes Israel, and it's a very small club, and if we don't look out for one another, and if we don't support one another, where are we and who are we?
All right. Well, thank you so much, Gil Troy, sometimes commentator for the Jerusalem Post, who wrote this very effective column, "The Israel We Know Still Lives."